Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, and if you want to see more of that, you can subscribe down below. Welcome or welcome back, and today we are going to be doing an unhaul. Hello everyone, and welcome to an unhaul where we're going to unhaul a decent number of books, considering I just had an unhaul, I think in November or December, but I am consistently going through my bookshelves as well as my TBR shelf to see if I still want to read books, if I am still interested in them, and these are the ones that I have decided to take off and get rid of for one reason or another. So we are going to jump into it. As always, if this is your favorite book, I'm glad you enjoy it, but it either wasn't for me, I read it a long time ago and I know I'm not going to reread it, or I'm just not interested in reading it at this point in my life. So we are going to jump into them right now. We're going to start with the book that I have read most recently and have decided to unhaul, and that is The Diviners by Libba Bray. I've had this book for years. I gave it 5 stars on my first read, but now I just recently reread it in January with a buddy read, and I did not enjoy it the second time around nearly as much. And I never continued the series after I read the book the first time, and I just don't see myself doing that now that I've lowered my rating either. This is going to go on to a new home, and I'm just simply not interested in continuing on with the series. Next up is a set of books that I don't believe I've read any of them in their entirety, whether they are DNFs or ones that I've realized that I don't want to read right now, and I'm going to unhaul them from my TBR shelf. So the first is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. Some of these like witchy, cutesy books, like almost like cozy paranormal romance, work for me, and some don't. I read about 2 or 3 pages of this, and I wish I had done that in the bookstore because I realized that the writing style and like the amount of just isn't gonna work for me in this book. Like I read the first couple of pages and everything from the names to the writing style irritated me, and I was like, this is one we should have checked in the bookstore to see if this was going to work, and it did not. So this is an unhaul. Then we have the one that I'm probably the most disappointed about in all of these books, and that is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I tried this book during Amazing Readathon last year, so I started it in June, and at the time I thought that I just simply wasn't interested in it because I was trying to read too many things at once. This wasn't moving quite as quickly as I wanted it to because I was reading it during Amazing, but after trying it again, like even just like as a cursory like check to see if I wanted to pick this up, if I was still interested in it, the book just hasn't grabbed me, and it is one that I think if I do finish it, if I do go back and finish it, it'll be somewhere in the range of 3 stars, which is a fine read, but after trying it and not being interested in it and not having any drive to pick it back up, I just don't think I'm going to go back and read it, which is so disappointing because I really wanted to love this book. I had it pre-ordered. Like, the book is gorgeous. The end papers are so pretty, but for me, this one I just don't think is going to be one that I go back to and really enjoy. And since I read like a third of it and put it down, it's even less likely that I am going to go back to it at this point. So we're going to unhaul it. Next up are 2 books that have been on my physical TBR for a little while, and I'm actually not saying I'm unhauling these because I am never going to come back to the series, but I don't foresee me getting to it for a while. And I have tried to start it in the past and not had success. So I'm going to unhaul the first 2 books in the Guild Hunter series by Nalani Singh. Now, this is disappointing to me because I love Nalani Singh. I love her Psy Changeling series. But that is a shifter and like psychic world. And this is a vampire and angel set series. And those 2 like paranormal beings are actually like almost anti-buzzwords for me. Like I am really, really particular about the types of vampires and the types of like angel books I read. And so I have tried to start Angel's Blood a couple of different times and never gotten hooked. And I don't know if it's because I know it's a vampire and angel series or what, but I'm not saying I will never read these books, but I don't foresee me doing it anytime soon, and it's not really a priority for me, so I am going to unhaul these two, even though I'm hoping at some point to give the series a more honest try. Next up, I have The Wild Ones by Nafiza Azad, and this is one that I've had on my bookshelves for a little while, and I remember trying the first chapter a few years ago and thinking it sounded interesting, but I went back and tried the first chapter recently, and I wasn't super sold on the writing style, and as I got like deeper into the book after trying that first chapter, it just wasn't hooking me. So I've decided that this one isn't going to be one that stays right now. But it is so gorgeous. Like, the cover is absolutely stunning, and I'm sad to let go of it, but it just is one that has been sitting here, and I feel like I've tried the first chapter a few different times and just never really gotten hooked on reading more of this story. So I'm gonna unhaul it. Next up is Wake Me Most Wickedly, Once Upon the East End by Felisa Grossman. And this is one that I got in a subscription box last year from my local indie. And that subscription box just didn't work out for me. I think it gave me way too many romance books that were outside of what I was like super interested in. And I have found recently that I just don't want to read a ton of romance right now. I'm completely out of that era, except for like a few exceptions when I need a palate cleanser or something like that. Like, I'm not consistently picking up romance, and I'm gonna unhaul both this one because it's number 7 in a series, and I have found that I want to go back and start at the beginning of series, even romance ones where things are just companions. So not super interested in this one. And then this one is The Other Side of Disappearing by Kate Claiborne. This is going to stay on my TBR because it does have a podcast element and I'm curious to read it, but it seems like something that I would listen to an audiobook and then probably just not be interested in having a physical copy. So it's going to stay on my TBR generally, but I don't want to keep the physical copy. Next up is a group of books that I have read, but I haven't reread in ages, and I'm sort of out of this phase of book that I enjoyed when I did read them, and it is Jane Austen retellings or reimaginings of one variety or another. So I have a bunch here that I have collected over the years and enjoyed to varying degrees, but I just don't see myself rereading these, and I have definitely stepped away from the genre as I get more into fantasy and different types of romance. So we're gonna unhaul these as well. So I have Captain Wentworth's Persuasion by Regina Jeffers, and honestly what I remember about this book is that the pet names drove me crazy and I wasn't interested. We also have Only Mr. Darcy Will Do by Cara Louise, Mr. Darcy's Diary by Amanda Grange, The Confessions of Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy by Mary Street, Mr. Darcy and the Secret to Becoming a Gentleman by Mariah Hamilton, and then 2 Abigail Reynolds books, which are Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy and What Would Mr. Darcy Do? Like I said, these are all books that I did read at one time and enjoyed them for what they were, but it's not my type of book anymore, so they are gonna go. One of my goals this year is to clean off and reorganize my 3 bookshelves that are like away from this bookshelf, and that like set of books was the unhaul from the first reorganization, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see more in the future from those reorganizations. I missed one. It is Friends with Boys by Faith Erin Hicks. This is a really cute graphic novel and I did enjoy it when I read it, but like I said, I haven't reread it or touched it in years. And that's my unhaul for this time. A lot of books that I haven't read or I've DNF'd or I've tried chapters and it just hasn't worked for me. I'm trying to be really honest with myself about things that I try and say I'm going to go back to and then I don't for years. So that's how there's a lot of things here that I am continually unhauling that I haven't finished. But you know, sometimes you have to look and say, I've tried to start this about 4 times and I've never gotten into it. And maybe saying, maybe it's not that I'm not in the mood, maybe I'm not into the book. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. But that is everything for me today. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about the books that I'm unhauling, go ahead, let me know down below. Like I said, this isn't a slight to any of these books. They're just books that I didn't personally enjoy or I know I'm not going to reread or get to in a timely manner. So they are going to go out the door. But thanks so much for watching. If you want to leave me a comment, you can do so down below, or just leave me a apple emoji for that romance retelling that I'm not going to continue the series. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!